Hi there, I am the historical fiction author Julia Kelly, and it's release day for my new book, The Whispers of War. This book is hitting bookstores in North America today and libraries as well. I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled that this book is out in the world right now, and I'll go into a little bit of detail about why this book is so special to me and what it was like writing this book. And then also today I'm going to do a bit of a quick author reading as well to give you a little sense of what you will get when you read The Whispers of War. But yeah, so The Whispers of War is really an important book to me. It covers, it's set in London, as my first book, The Light Over London, my first historical novel was, and it's set in the early days of the war. So it starts just before World War II is declared and goes through about June of 1940. And that's important because during that period of time, we really see the war change public opinion, and things begin to happen, and there's this whole societal shift that happens. So I really wanted to play around with that and figure out how I was going to present that to a reading audience. And the way I decided to do that was to focus on three characters. You kind of see them here. Marie, Nora, and Hazel, who have been best friends for a very, very long time. Marie moved over from Germany to the UK to attend school, and the three were roomed together at their boarding school, and now they're all young women in London trying to make it in the world, and you know, all of kind of slightly differing class degrees, but all having this very tight bond of having gone to school together and known each other for so long. And so when war comes, it throws Marie's life in particular into chaos, because Marie is, being German, required to go through a process of tribunals to judge whether she is or is not a threat to Britain and to national safety. And this is actually something that people did go through. It must have been an incredibly difficult, scary time for a lot of people, because you would have been classified into different categories, and if you received kind of quote-unquote the wrong classification, you would have been sent to an internment camp. So Britain actually had internment camps. A large one was up at the Isle of Man, and it means that that people would have effectively lost their freedom during the war, and wouldn't have known what was happening. And in a lot of cases, these were people who had lived in the UK for a very long time, people who felt very, very loyal to the UK, and who were completely innocent of doing anything during World War II, except for the fact that they just happened to be German. So I think, you know, this was a difficult book to write. I really wanted to make sure that I got it right in terms of what was going on during the war, when, and also really because the central friendship between these three women is so important to the book, I wanted to make sure that I got it right when it came to who these women were, what would have motivated them, and what they would have been willing to sacrifice in order to try to keep their friend out of internment and away from that threat. So the book starts out with a young woman who, in present day, has gone and after her grandmother, who is Marie, has passed away many, many years after the war, she goes back to London with a bequest laid out in Marie's will, and delivers that to one of the other women, Nora, in this friendship. And through that, she learns a bit about her grandmother's past and things that she never knew about her grandmother through World War II. So you get a bit of the perspective looking back, and then you also get the unraveling of the story as you move forward. And that's important for a couple of different reasons. So I really, again, am very proud of this book. I'm very, very proud it's out to readers. And to give you a little bit of a preview, if you haven't picked it up yet, I'm going to go ahead and do a very quick little virtual author reading. So this is just a taste of what you're going to get. You don't need to know a huge amount. You know, at the start of this section, it's the start of chapter 2 in the book. As I said before, Marie is German, and so there's an extra layer in this scene to why she's thinking about and worried about the war. But I think I can just go ahead and take it from there and promise you guys I will not do accents. I'm not going to try to put voices on. I was not an actress growing up, so it's best for everybody if I don't do that. So here we go. Okay. August 25th, 1939. The threat of war hung heavy in the air, refusing to dissipate with the fog each late summer morning. It was impossible to ignore as Marie shuffled around a newspaperman who stood outside the Hyde Park Corner tube station, shouting, "Britain signs on to help Poland, mutual assistance treaty," as he hawked the evening edition. Marie ducked her head and hurried on, knowing that buying an evening edition of the paper would only delay her more. She'd stopped at the shop around the corner from work to pick up 2 extra batteries after seeing the queue at lunch, and it had taken her twice as long as she thought it would to hand over her shillings. Still, her handbag was heavy with the batteries now, and she knew she'd made the right choice because if war came, then there was sure to be a run on them. If. When. She gritted her teeth and shoved the thought back as though that would somehow keep Hitler from grasping at any more of Europe. She was nearly panting by the time the Harlan Club came into view, its proud red brick face embellished with a cornice of white stone, a gem even on stately Mount Street. Wallace, the doorman, stood tall in his oxblood uniform coat, ready and waiting for the arrival of any of the Harlan ladies as they popped in for cocktails or a bit of supper before Friday night at the theater. She may not have been a member, but she liked to think that one day she might be mistaken for the sort of woman who could walk up to this building knowing she belonged. Wallace opened the door and, with a tug at the brim of his black top hat, folded into a half bow. "Good evening, Miss Bond." "Good evening, Wallace. Has Miss Walcott arrived?" she asked. "I'm afraid not, Miss Bond, but I'm sure Mrs. Harper would make you feel comfortable while you wait." Drat. Mrs. Harper, the club's receptionist, always glared at her as though Marie intended to flitch the club's silverware with her back when her back was turned. "Marie," called Hazel from the club's lobby with a cheerful wave that sent her strawberry blonde page boy sweeping her shoulders. "I was just wondering where you'd gotten to." "Batteries," she said, leaning over to brush her friend's cheek with a kiss light enough that her cherry red Tangine lipstick didn't transfer. "That was me last Saturday. 40 minutes to buy 2 tins of potatoes, 1 of peas, and 6 boxes of matches. None of the government's wardings against hoarding seem to make any difference. I suppose everyone's afraid there might be rationing again." The Harlan's grandfather clock chimed the quarter hour. "Is that really the time?" "At least you're not as late as Nora. I feel as though we've been waiting for her to show up whenever we meet, ever since we were at school." "Because we have," said Marie. "Well, Mrs. Harper and I have spent the last quarter hour becoming quite fast friends," said Hazel with a grin. The receptionist glared over the edge of the desk she sat at. If the Harlan were a medieval castle, Wallace operated the drawbridge. Mrs. Harper was the true gatekeeper, always watching at her perch. The stout, sour-faced woman who knew every club member on site had never really approved of their Band of Three's habit of meeting at the Harlan on the last Friday of every month. Luckily, there was little she could do about it. Marie and Hazel were Nora's friends, and while she might not have been able to guarantee them membership to the exclusive and expensive club, Nora had enough clout to make sure they would always be welcome as guests. Wallace swung the door open again, and Nora rushed in, her color high and her black handbag slapping against her side. "Is Scotland Yard after you? You're practically running," said Hazel. I know, I'm late," said Nora, her gasps of breath making her cut glass accent even more pronounced as she stooped to kiss each of them on the cheek. "I'm sorry." "Marie was late too," said Hazel. "No one likes a tattletale," said Marie. "Like the time you told Miss Burford that I was sneaking sweets in the back of maths class?" Nora asked. Hazel shrugged as Marie and Nora handed off their coats to Mrs. Harper. "In my defense, I was 13, and it was only because you never shared your sweets, a character flaw, I will point out, that has not improved with age. If we're going to start the evening by pointing out all of my bad qualities, can I at least be armed with a drink?" asked Nora. So that hopefully gives you a little taste of the friendship between the 3 girls and also the atmosphere of what is going on in London at the time of this book's beginning. Again, I'm really thrilled for this book to be out. I know I keep saying that, but it was a tough one to write, so after a long, long time where I felt this book was never going to be finished, it's really wonderful to see it in hardcover and to see it out there in the world, coming back on social media, because as usual, you can tell behind me, I am in London at the moment and not in the US, but people in London, this is the British edition, so if you want a bit of a side-by-side comparison, this is the US and this is the British edition, so slightly different colors, well, very different colors, and then also slightly different treatments in that window there. This edition is coming out on Thursday. The hardcover is going to be online exclusive, and you will be able to also find it in libraries as well. It will get a full paperback release in the autumn. I'm on a slightly different release schedule for the UK than I am in the US. And yeah, I'm really, really excited about both of these. I think it's going to be fantastic to see what comes back from readers, and really hopefully get a sense of how people feel about this book and about these women who I've come to really care a lot about these characters, and I'm very proud of what I wrote. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the brief little reading, and I'll be doing more around the Whispers of War all over social media. You can check out the links to various things, as well as signing up for my newsletter, where you get some exclusive bonus content and other things well before other people, as well as getting things that are just meant for the newsletter. So sign up for that, and go ahead and hit subscribe on this channel as well for more videos, and I will be back very soon.